Hey, what's going on? It's Doug Cunnington here, and this is the Doug Show. Today, I'm talking to Mushfiq from the website Flip, and he has this amazing case study that we kind of teased a little bit last year, the last time I interviewed him, but essentially he has 10x the valuation of a specific website over the course of just 12 months from 2020 to 2021, which is absolutely amazing. So we're going to unpack some of that and talk about some of the details. There's actually so much information jam-packed in here. We won't be able to go over everything, so we'll certainly link up to the case study information that Mushfiq has published out there. So how's it going today?
Hey, Doug. Thanks for having me on. It's going great. How are you?
Doing awesome today, and I'm pumped to talk about this case study. We were just chatting beforehand, and all the headlines are amazing that I could think of just to cover what you've done here. So we'll get into the details in a second, but for the people that don't know you, can you talk about just who you are and what you do? Just a little short intro.
Sure. Yeah. So quick intro is I got started in 2008 where I built my first site and sold it in 2010. It was about $25,000. Life-changing money then, kind of helped me go through college. And then I saw this business model of building sites, growing them, and then selling them. So since then, I've done about, right now, probably 185 website flips. I average about 15 a year. They go from small ones, less than 50K up to 100K, 200K. And I just essentially buy them from Flippa or different marketplaces, my network, Facebook groups, and grow them over maybe a 6-month period, position them for sale, and then flip them. So that's my business model. And then with that came the website flip.com, where I have a blog where I talk about these case studies, insights, reports, some digital products, etc.
Got it. And the website Flip, you started that one from scratch, right?
Yeah. It started as just a bare bones newsletter in April 2020, right at the middle of the pandemic or the start of the pandemic, and then it just grew from there. I switched over to a dedicated domain, the website flip.com, in November 2020. And then since then, that's the case study that we're going to talk about today.
Perfect. And one thing we'll mention is we won't use any specific revenue numbers just to keep some things private, because a lot of things are just out there. But we did mention that the valuation of this site is currently right now at the beginning of 2022, like the low 7 figures, right?
Yes.
Is this the highest valuation for a site that you've had?
Yeah. 7 figures, definitely highest. The next biggest will probably be about 450,000. That's still in my portfolio. But yeah, usually I don't let things get this big. I'm a flipper. So, when things get about the 100,000 range, less than that, I actually just sell. I have, I don't know if we want to get into this, but really quickly, it's much harder to sell bigger sites than it is smaller sites, in short.
Okay. That was exactly what I was going to ask. Well, why don't you want to have a bigger site? Okay. Yeah. Well, let's start getting into the details. So I know there were a few acquisitions that helped fuel the growth here, but can you talk about sort of the foundation? Like, what are we dealing with? What kind of site? Where's the revenue coming from? And some of those details.
Yeah, so primarily, I initially, of the first 6 months of managing this site, I was never targeting organic traffic. I mean, it was always a byproduct. However, there's not much organic traffic in this space in general. It's not like it's going to get 100,000 page views or 500,000 page views. It's always going to be relatively low. So I was more in building up the email newsletter subscribers, social media, podcasts, getting shout outs in other newsletters, and building up my subscriber base so that I can share my case studies, reports, and then also, develop digital products so that I can cater to that audience. So that was, the main growth. And then over time, organic traffic, it's a brand new domain. So whatever content I put on, it did take time. About probably 7 months, I was starting to get good enough organic traffic. And so that's been the trajectory.
In some of the details that you have on the blog post, I see it's averaging about 15,000 page views per month. Is that about
Yep.
right?
Yeah, 15,000 page views. Of that, I would say 3,000 to 4,000 is organic traffic, and the rest is direct referral social traffic.
And when we hear the numbers, like that sounds like, kind of a very small amount. So is that kind of what you were expecting, understanding the market?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, for sure. And when Q3 2021, so let's say, October, November, maybe a little bit earlier, that time period is when I saw that the organic traffic was picking up. My Ahrefs DR authority essentially is picking up. And so I doubled down on getting more organic focused, SEO focused content on the site, which started picking up quickly. And then obviously I did some acquisitions that helped add shoulder topics to the site, which had much more traffic potential from organic.
Let's get into some of those. So
Sure.
what acquisitions did you have, and when did you scope those out? Was that part of the original plan, or how'd you get into it?
No, it was never part of my original plan. I mean, I'm a big proponent of growth by acquisition. We're never going to be the big players like, the big firms that buy up their competitors, but I just do that on a very micro level. I call it micro mergers and acquisitions. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm always on the lookout to buy sites, right? I buy sites on my portfolio, 15 sites a year I cycle through. And so I'm always on the lookout. And so anything that looks good for the website Flip to take on, I'm always there to buy it. And this could be mostly what I'm looking for is two things that justify me doing an acquisition, two rationales essentially. Is it a related topic that I can add to my site? So it's like a silo, a category that I can now add on to my site that if I make that acquisition and do the redirects, move the content over, it's going to add value? Or is it going to be something that's going to produce leads as in subscribers to my newsletter? So if any one of those are hit with an acquisition, I go for it. So for example, and please stop me if you have any questions, I'm just going to explain one or two of them. So niche websites is, the primary key, let's say, content type that I'm targeting, like keyword research, niche digital marketing, website flipping, website valuations, brokers. These are the type of contents I was touching on. And essentially after maybe mid 2021, I pretty much covered everything in terms of what has keyword research, right? I was running out of ideas. And so now I have to branch out into other topics. So domain investing is something that's really interesting to me. I have a lot of articles on my site about using aged domains, expired domains to build up niche sites or redirect to niche sites. So the topical authority or relevancy was there. And so I wanted to get into more traditional domain investing, like people who buy domains to hold and then sell later. So domain flipping, essentially. And so I acquired a site called dngeek.com. This is a DR54 5-year-old site built by a expert in the industry who was a very consistent domain flipper. And it had a ton of content. It had a ton of reports like the 5,000 best domains that were sold in 2021. So these very data-rich articles, which is what my website is about, data-rich articles. So it was a perfect acquisition. And essentially, I introduced a silo on my site called thewebsiteflip.com/domains, where this entire site and its articles were moved into. And now that allowed me to talk about domain investing as a topic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you acquired the site and moved over the content, like how long did it take to get traffic in that silo area? Was it already getting traffic? Was there some transition period?
Yeah, no, there's definitely transition period. So I think I acquired it around I want to say October-ish time period. So by December, it was getting about 3,000 page views for just that silo itself. So that was existing traffic that site had, which was very minimal, maybe less than 1,000. And then obviously when I'm adding it onto my existing site, which has a lot of content and already some domain authority, I think the domain authority before I bought DN Geek was 40, and after I bought it was 61. So that DN Geek site really helped my original site's domain rating go up as well. And so with that, I was able to increase the traffic on this silo. And now I'm adding about 5 to 10 articles a month into that silo, focused on different domain investing keywords. And so I hope that to get to about 10,000 page views a month within next 2 to 3 months on that silo.
Gotcha. Wow. And I'm surprised to hear that your domain rating went up that much from. Do you have any theories on that? Does that surprise you as well?
I have zero idea. I know that it was going to go up. I honestly didn't think it was going to go from 40 to 61. And I have a graph in my case study, and you'll see that abrupt jump goes from like 41 to 61. And that was that acquisition there. So no idea how this works. It just worked.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now, have you seen, I know it's been recent, but do you see more traffic coming in, more organic traffic specifically to the rest of the site, not that silo, because of the higher domain rating?
Yes and no. It's hard to tell. So, a DR of 40, which is what I had prior, is pretty good in the space that I was already operating in. So I was ranking top 3 for keywords that I really wanted to, which was website valuations, top brokers. I was number 1 for like best website brokers. I still am. And these kind of keywords that I always wanted to target. And then also like age domains, I'm number 1 for that as well. And so I don't think that DN Geek authority really helped that because I was already up there. So I can't say for sure if the future content will rank better, but my theory is yes, it's just hard to measure.
Right. And I mean, the whole time you're trying to get more organic traffic through several different areas. So there's not, it's not an experiment or anything. You have too many variables to even tell what's going on. Okay.
Exactly.
Very cool. And then anything else interesting with the acquisitions? That was a great example where you put a silo on, you got sort of higher returns from it than you would have expected, and it sounds awesome. Yeah,
and there's some byproducts. This site also came with about 1,000 domain investors, subscribers, essentially on an email list. So that was added to my email list, merged into it, and it allowed me to essentially the goal of this was to bridge the gap. So niche website investors, we usually think of the domain name as a secondary thing. We usually do keyword research first, we do niche research first, monetization research first, and then we just go on Namecheap or Google domains, wherever people are buying domains, just find something that's relevant and just start. And that's the way it should be. Definitely, you should just get started. However, brandable domains, quality domains add value to your website. Even if that may not be like a metric that brokers take into a factor today, it is a metric that a lot of buyers take into a factor. If it's a brandable domain, you can add a lot of topics. It just looks better, right? And so the goal was to bridge that gap, that there is niche website investors that need to understand the domain investing space so that they can understand how to pick a domain, what is the value of the domain, what value that provides. But then there's the flip side, where domain investors buy these 6-figure domains, keep them in their portfolio, and don't monetize. So those guys need some education on how can they take advantage of those domains, build a content site on it, get it monetized while they're holding onto the domain. And then when a buyer comes because domains you can have random buyers. You can hold it for 3 years and all of a sudden it sells. And during those 3 years, you're not making any money. So how can those domain investors make money? So the goal is to bridge that gap. And the way to do that is bring those subscribers to my website Flip email newsletter. And every Wednesday, I do a deal flow newsletter. Essentially, I send out 3 to 5 websites for sale that are from Flippa, Empire Flippers, all the big brokers. And I also cover now, I have a guy on my team now as a domain analyst. He goes through GoDaddy auctions and picks out 10 or 15 of the most branded and SEO focused domains. And we share those in the newsletter. So now both parties are getting to see what's going on in the auctions and then also what's going on in the website niche world as well.
As a person that acquire sites, and it sounds like you buy at least one per month on average, so you're an active buyer, why does the brandable name matter so much versus like Alex Cooper over at WP Eagle? He did a live case study, a public case study, best roof box, right? He was able to rank, he made some good money on it, but it just seems so 2008 to me. So can you go deeper on that?
Yeah, sure. So from a Google's perspective, it doesn't matter, right? However, from Google's perspective, that they don't really differentiate between an exact match keyword focused domain and a brandable domain. However, 2 other aspects that do matter here. One is the user that's searching. If somebody sees best roof box, nothing to Alex here, it's just in general, I've done exact match keywords in the past. I think in today's world, the user is smart. Whoever's searching in Google, they kind of look through that and just say, okay, do I want to go to bestroofbox.com or do I want to go to car.com that has information about roofbox? It's just more trustworthy when you see these kind of legit brands rather than specific affiliate content sites. Now that's from the user perspective. So with that said, even if car.com may rank position 3, 4, 5, and best roof box may rank 1, I think a user, even me included, would rather click on car.com, and then over time car.com will take over best roof box because they're getting more action in the SERPs, right? More click-throughs and less bounces. That's one. And then from the buyer perspective on the investing side, right? I'm a broker. I'm listing sites for sale weekly. I'm reviewing sites for sale. I can, with a guarantee that if you have bestroofbox.com and you have roofbox.com will sell within 24 hours and bestroofbox.com will not sell. That the buyers are changing their thought process and getting away from exact match, phrase match domains to more brandable domains.
Well said. Okay, so let's talk about monetization a little bit. Where are you earning money in this platform?
Yeah, good question. So mostly I have sponsorships in my newsletter that pay me a fixed fee. That's about, I have the chart open here, about 9% of the total revenues. The majority, though, is easywins.io. It's one of my digital products that was launched in November 2020, and that's about 27% of my total revenues. And really what I saw here is that most of my digital products that I launched for the website Flip were done in middle of 2021. So they haven't really had a 12-month cycle to kind of showcase which one is the winner. Easy Wins has had more than a 12-month time period to showcase. However, trajectory-wise, my course is doing the best, which is a course on website flipping. I just see that trajectory going much better than Easy Wins. So yeah, digital products bring in more than 50%. Sponsors bring in about 10%. Affiliate revenue about 10%. Consulting about 10%. And brokerage that I run about 13%.
Okay, so it's a really nice spread, looking at the same chart that you are talking about. So, and I talk about the importance of like having digital products, if you're running your own brand, it's such a high margin situation where you create the product once, you can kind of sell it an infinite number of times. But, to go on the other side, when people have a site, an affiliate site or a content site where they can monetize in many different ways, if they could find a digital product, someone to be an affiliate with a digital product, it's a great move. And you can see like how profitable it is, and it just makes sense. So like with your site, not this one, but with your portfolio of sites, do you try to find digital products to promote? Is that an important piece, or is it kind of hit and miss depending on the whole industry?
Yeah, definitely. If I see something with a digital product, I'm willing to pay a higher multiple. So in my valuation framework that I follow and I teach, even if the site has a digital product, and even if it's not bringing much sales, you get a multiplier increase. I'd say about 2x increase in multiplier, just because it has a digital product and it's not always tied to Google. Tied to display ads or affiliate revenue. So definitely, when I buy sites, I'm looking for that. One thing I would say though, I'm not a typical niche website investor. I have a shorter hold time, so I'm looking for easy wins on sites I buy that I can just buy, improve quickly, hold for 6 months to 9 months, and then sell. Now, a digital product, you need to build a funnel, you need to build an email list, you need to build a sales page, a landing page, test what works, test a price point, and it's a longer process. So usually most of the sites I buy are not in that realm because I don't have that hold time. So in general, for me, it's not the best, but for most people, 90% of people, yeah, you should look for something with a digital product or an opportunity for a digital product.
When you talked about the Hrefs domain rating moving like so much, I mean, it just blows me away. So it was around 10 at the beginning of the 12-month period, right? And it's a relatively new site, you said, during the pandemic, so 2020 timeframe. So you did get from 10 to 40 before the acquisition, and you got the big bump. So can you talk about some of the pieces that helped get you there? I know just, landing backlinks and getting out there is pretty tough. I mean, you're in a quite competitive industry with everyone's a marketer. Everyone knows what you're trying to do. So
exactly. Yeah, sure. I bought this domain in October, so 2020. So it was about 10 in early 2021, January. And initially, the big boost happened through Haro, Help a Reporter Out. And I outsourced that to Shauna Newman. You know her, right? She's been on the podcast. She has an agency that does that. And she was able to get my DR. I can't say exactly how much, but I think up to about 25, 30 just by outreaching for me. And I had a very good success rate. I landed a lot of high quality links, but that's because my site was quality, genuine, and not an affiliate site. It was a genuine data-driven site, a legit business. So that got that up there. The next thing would be that I bought two other sites to tack on, which was another one was like a DR20 and another DR15, flipfilter.com, flipwebsites.com. These are very relevant sites to mine, and they were much older. They were just neglected, so I bought those and redirected, so that helped bring it up. Now I don't know exactly how much. So Haro, two other acquisitions. And then obviously, I did a lot of guest posts. I reached out to everybody I know in the industry, and it helps that I've been in the industry since 2008. I know all the names and they sort of know me. So whenever I reach out, it's usually a 90% high chance that they say, yes, sure, you can do a guest post, or sure, I'll give you a link from this page. So I did a lot of that from relevant sites. And yeah, it was just you can see the trajectory. There was no big jump. So it's not like I'm cheating the system all of a sudden, right? That big jump was kind of, I didn't know what's going to happen from DN Geek merger, but in general, it's a pretty steady upward trend. And it's just about building links, building relationships on a daily basis.
Very good. And I know you mentioned before that you had a couple tools and those were good for attracting some links too. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I had a development team out of India that I work with build me a pretty much in WordPress itself. It's a deal feed. It's called dealfeed.io. You can go to and check it out. It's essentially aggregates all the content sites and all the businesses for sale from the top brokers like Empire Flippers, Investors Club, Motion Invest, etc., and brings them into one place so that you don't spend time. Because if you are actively buying, each broker has a different way of presenting data, a different time period of the week they send out listings, sometimes random, and it's always scattered. The data is always different. And so we kind of put it all in one place, saves the individual time in looking through the deals. So that was launched, let's say early 2021, mid 2021. And then I realized, okay, this I can use the same tool, but add on pages to my site covering different keywords that are very lucrative, like Amazon FBA businesses for sale, Amazon KDP businesses for sale, dropshipping businesses for sale, SaaS businesses for sale, content businesses for sale. These are all keywords that big players like Empire Flippers, Flippa, all the big brokers are going after. And there's no reason that I can't be an unbiased source. I'm going after those keywords, covering the whole topic in general rather than a broker covering that topic, because there's a conflict of interest. And so I use that tool, DealFeed, to add that same tabular format showing all the different deals on those pages. And so I added a dynamic component because the database is updating every few hours. So that content page was kept up to date every few hours dynamically. And that actually got me higher rankings, ranking for those very lucrative keywords, very competitive keywords over time.
Very cool. And did you end up getting a lot of backlinks like through that, or it was just like a better piece of content?
Originally in the main, early in the year, yes, I got a few backlinks through launching of DealFeed. These other additional pages just didn't need backlinks. They just went up in the top 3, 5. I think I'm in the top 5 for most of them. And so I haven't checked if they individually got backlinks, but I think over time they will, and they'll just get to the top position. One thing I will be doing soon is actually running ads. So instead of just waiting for things to happen, there's a tactic that a lot of people have tried, is you can run Google ads and push that article to the top, essentially when somebody searches, and that my article will show up and I'll pay for those clicks essentially. But what that will do is whoever's researching maybe to give a backlink, they'll kind of go to that and say, okay, this is a valuable page. So I can bypass that and then get my article in front of the people who are going to give me a backlink, and then do that for maybe 3 months, see if I get natural backlinks. If not, stop it. But that's a kind of a shortcut way.
Okay. Didn't Ahrefs do like a case study and they have some data on that?
I'm not sure. I have to check. Okay. That's good to know.
That reminds me, I don't know how it turned out. I saw the headline and then didn't read it, like typical person in a hurry. So I think they did something.
Okay, I'll check it out. Yeah.
So it sounds like, you can't make a mistake, but everybody does make mistakes. There's a couple of things that didn't work out in 2021. Yeah. And funny enough, one of them is like the other side of the coin. So the deal flow or deal feed or dealflow.io. Yeah. You were going to try and do something else with it. So you want to talk about how that didn't work, how you thought?
Yeah. So early when I had this idea that there needs to be a tool that helps investors sift through all the businesses for sale, my goal was to launch that as an MVP and then expand on it by adding, since I'm having all this data, I can do historical trends. I can look at historical multiples, how is a multiple growing by niche, by monetization, add on a lot of due diligence tools, essentially a full-fledged SaaS business around that. So what happened was I launched the MVP of DOF, which is what it is today, and immediately put up like a paid subscription option that, hey, you can get access to all these deals in one place, saves you countless hours, but it resulted in no sales after many months of testing. So it's not, maybe it's not a perfect sign, but it's a sign enough for somebody like me that always follows the 80-20 rule, that just focus your time on what's important, right? That it's probably best I don't do that right now and focus on growing the website Flip. So it's pretty much that failure or semi-failure resulted in how can I repurpose deal feed, because I spent over $20,000 building it. How can I repurpose it in other places on my site to add dynamic content, etc. So something good came out of it, but there wasn't a direct return on investment. There is indirect return on investments for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was curious how much you spent on the development, but you did get a couple links out of it, and hopefully, like you said, sort of indirectly you were able to get some value, but I don't know if you mapped out the cost per link, it may still be a little expensive.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think the ROI is directly calculable. I can't calculate it. But, again, a few things that does help is obviously links, but also people that do visit it. It's a consistent flow of traffic that people directly come to the site, because obviously there's a subset of people that this does help. And what it does is increases my time on page to more than 3 minutes. People are spending a lot of time on average. Bounce rate is about 30%. So it is helping all these other things, which indirectly help my site stand out in terms of Google.
Very good. Anything else that didn't work out so well?
Another thing, I'm always launching things. And so one thing I did was I have this issue myself, finding experts. There's SEO experts out there that work generic SEO, but niche sites, it's kind of a subtopic and not everybody understands it. And so I wanted to build a job board essentially just to get specialists in the niche website space, SEO operators, writers, developers, whatever, right? And launched the job board. I spent I think a week putting that together with a service that cost about $250 a month, and launched it to my newsletter. I was hoping people would. It was free to get started, to post what you're looking for and people to respond. And there was absolutely no listings, so I just shut it down. It's not worth the $250 a month. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one, and I guess it's one of those two-sided marketplaces where you need the suppliers and you need the consumers as well. So, you hear about, I guess like forums is another example where when people launch a forum, sometimes they're in there talking to themselves, like making it look like there's people in there posting things. So it could take, I guess once you get the traction, like it does run by itself, but
yes,
that's a tough one.
And I might try it again. It's just that at that time of the cycle on the website Flip, I was doing things myself. I had a VA to help me format, but I didn't have team members. Now I have a team of 5 that can do all these different tasks, and now I can actually work on expanding the business in 2022. So there might be that I can probably launch this and spend more time on it. But at that time, it was not worth it.
How would you earn money from it? I guess like if it did work, how was your monetization plan?
Yeah, it's all whoever wanted to post a job, that they would have to pay for it, maybe $1,500 for a posting for 30 days. That's the typical job board model. So, yeah.
Okay. And it does make sense. Like you said, there's other job boards out there. And I think having one where people actually do understand how to do things for our kinds of sites, it does make sense. It seems like there's a market there, because I know, a super common question is, people want to hire an agency to do something, but it's quite expensive because the agency has overhead and admin they have to pay for, and they have to earn money. So they're hiring people, just the same people that you would hire, and they're just charging the difference there. So there's certainly a market.
Yeah, I think there still is. I guess it's that issue of, it's supply and demand. Both sides I have to kind of manage. So, but I honestly still think there is an opportunity here. So if anyone out there listening wants to do this, reach out. I'll partner with you if you want to do the heavy lifting.
There you go. So you mentioned the team. Can you talk about your team and what the people do and how that helps you out?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, good question. So I hired 5 people, and nobody is like on a W-2 payroll or anything. They're all contractors. Some have fixed salaries. Some are writers that write for me, and some are paid by the hour. The first person I hired was what I call a growth specialist. So there's a lot of things, when you're running a multi-revenue, multi-channel business like the website Flip. There's a lot of things that need to get done. Like if I launch a new product, I need a sales campaign, a sales landing page put together, an email campaign put together, all of these things that take up a lot of time. But so I hired a growth specialist. I pay him a fixed fee per month, and he essentially implements these crazy ideas. They could be building a Google Sheet to track. Like he's right now building me a Google Sheet to track which writer is bringing traffic for my niche sites. Because I have a lot of writers for my niche sites, I have no idea who's the best. And so I can give them a raise or focus, make sure they get most of the content. So these kind of tools that I need to operate my business, operate the website Flip. So this guy just, does all of that. And then I have 2 writers. One of them is an analyst / writer. He helps. I have a membership attached to the website Flip where, at least once a week, we publish some data-driven report where we analyze niche sites and do a lot of data-driven analysis. And this individual helps me put those together, put those write-ups together, does the analysis and the charts and whatnot. And then we'll have a generic technical writer who's also, and one thing is all of these people I've hired are also niche website investors. So they understand the space. They have bought sites, they have their own portfolio. Some have sold, some haven't, but they know the game. So I hire only experts. So I have a technical writer who is a writer, but also writes for his own sites as well. So he can bridge the gap and help me put together content that's SEO focused. I also have a domain analyst, which I talked about before. This is after buying DN Geek. This individual used to work for DN Geek, so he came on board on my team, and he sifts through GoDaddy auctions and picks out quality domains to share in my newsletter. And then recently, I think November, December, I hired an SEO specialist. So and these individuals work on multiple of my sites. 80% of the time they're working on the website Flip, but sometimes they work on other projects. And the SEO specialist is doing keyword research for my niche sites, on-page, off-page SEO, content audits, etc. So yeah, those are the 5 people that are key to my team.
Okay. And did you notice right away as you were hiring people that your plate was a little more empty and you had time to focus on other things? Or was it one of those situations where you hire them and actually there's a lot of training and it takes a few weeks before you actually free up?
Yeah, good question. I think that issue of training is always there. However, I'm paying top dollar. So my writers are in the 10 cents per word range. So, they are already pretty good. I'm not cutting corners, hiring somebody at 2-3 cents that needs a lot of guidance. Like essentially I give these people sometimes even a title and they put together the content. I don't need to worry about anything, kind of trust that they write it well. And then I review it, obviously. The domain analyst, he's an expert in and of itself, better than me. So I trust his work. The SEO specialist actually worked for Ahrefs, the internal team. So this individual knows his stuff, right? And so, yeah, I'm hiring very good people and paying a lot of money for them. And so the training initially was just, hey, this is how I want things done. It's not how to do it. So I'm not training VAs. I've actually hired experts.
Perfect. Very good. And was it hard for you to cough up the money to pay for experts versus something you're like, I could train someone?
Yeah. No, it's hard. But what happened was after I hired my growth specialist, he took off so much off my plate. They're not I would say they're not repetitive tasks, but they're things that need to get done so that that the sales can increase of the business. And so he took those off my plate so that now I was able to launch my course. I was able to launch Easy Diligence, which is another product. So it gave me time to launch products, which then generated revenue, which then allowed him to be busy with optimizing that revenue and building different things to optimize that revenue, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, before we move on to what the plans are for, say, the next 12 or 18 months or something like that, is there anything else that I didn't ask you about that you want to mention here about the last year or so on the website Flip?
No, I think we got everything.
Perfect. All right. Yeah. What's coming up then? What's on your plate?
Yeah, I always say a lot. So obviously, I'm always out there buying sites to tack onto this. And actually just 3 days ago, I just bought another site to build onto another silo. And I can kind of talk to real quick on that is I bought howtocreateablog.org. So, the website Flip is the main website flipping, essentially buying, growing, and selling sites. Then we have domain investing that kind of talk that connect. And then it's more beginner friendly stuff like how to put together a blog, what is the benefit of a blog, all those topics. So I found a site that was around since 2014, also a DR like 30, has links from Entrepreneur, USA Today, Social Media Explorer, all these big sites, and essentially now added on another silo on my site, which is growing and building a content niche site. And so that's going to be the next focus to grow that silo and bring in more traffic that way. So that's just happened like a few days ago. And so, yeah, I'm still on the lookout for more acquisitions. And these include content sites, age domains, email lists, social media profiles, digital products I can buy and tack on, SaaS tools, WordPress plugins, anything that's going to enhance this business. Any questions, or should I just keep going?
Keep going.
Yeah. I want to launch a podcast. There's a lot of podcasts in our industry. There doesn't need to be another one. However, this podcast is just going to be me talking through my case studies, what I'm learning, maybe once a week. It's just me, 10 minutes. I'm sharing what's going on in the website flipping world, etc. So it's not going to be rehashing everybody else's or interviews type structure. It's just going to be me talking, more like John Dykstra's podcast that he just shares his thoughts. And then I have allocated about a $5,000 per month budget to build links that are high DR. So high DR means, I'm not done building DR. My goal is to get this to like DR 80. And, the way the DR calculations work, authority, it's exponentially harder to get that incremental DR after a certain point. You just need a lot more. And so, I'm trying to build links DR 60 and above. So I've allocated about $5,000 a month, and the links usually cost $500 to $1,000 at that level, DR 80, 90 links. So it's going to eat it up quickly. And I have like a 3-month plan of $15,000 to invest in building those links. You have questions?
Yeah. On the, building those links, are those typically in the form of guest posts, or do you have to find those, or, where are you getting those?
Yeah, some secrets I'd like to keep to myself. So I will say that they are guest posts, they are niche edits, and that's not the secret here, but the where I'm getting them. So I've kind of built a network of people. They're not agencies that build links. They're individuals that have relationships with these different brands out there, and essentially, they can give me a link and they get paid, things like that. So it's not really white hat; it's semi white hat. But yeah, I cannot share who I'm using or what I'm using. Kind of defeats the purpose of building a network. But yeah, it's legitimate links. It's not like I'm putting a link to one of my pages from a very irrelevant website, right? I keep it relevant because now every incremental thing I do, it's scary. Every incremental acquisition I do to tack onto my site, I think 10 times more than I did last year, because now it's a legit business. I don't want to just lose everything, right? Just by doing one extra thing. So I'm very, very, very careful. I have some people who double check everything for me, like some more experts. I just share the domain, say, hey, does this make sense to you? Does this look good to you? Can you just do an audit for me? Just to make sure things are looking, like, I just don't want to screw things up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's some secret link source out there, and I mean, I don't know anything, by the way, for the listeners and stuff, but I was going to say, like, if you just work in an industry for a little while, like, you meet people, like, you've been doing this for a long time, so it's not unusual that you would know people that can help you out, and that know other people that might be able to help you out. So, all right.
Yeah, exactly. And just a few things else is just double down on content. I'll probably hire a few more writers, and then looking for a specialist in terms of a deal flow specialist. I spend a lot of hours a week going through deals, putting it in the newsletter, writing those up. So looking for somebody to come in and help me with that so that I can free up my time there. And then bring on new sponsors. As the organic traffic increases on the site, there is no sponsors on the site itself. The newsletter has always had a sponsor, at least one or two since day one. But the website now is getting good traffic, 15,000 visitors a month. There's potential of adding specific sponsors on specific silos and building up that revenue stream.
Got it. Very cool.
That's it.
There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, you sound like a busy man. So this has been awesome. Would love to get an update in a few months and hear how things are going. So thanks a lot, Mushfiq. Where should people find you?
The website, flip.com.
Easy enough. Yeah, we'll link up for it. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.
All right. Awesome. Thanks so much, Ted.